everybody, welcome back to the Fired Up with CJ show. We are talking or continuing our conversation with Jenna Beam. Shit. All right, start over.
That's okay.
All right. Healthy discovery acupuncture already. All right. All right, so it's 22, 23, 30. So it's 38. All right. Three, three, two, one. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Fired Up with CJ show. We are continuing our conversation about facial acupuncture, and this segment we're going to be talking about how facial acupuncture compares to some of the other things out there. And the list of things out there is growing. There's
Totally.
there's Botox, which I've done before. Botox. There's fillers. There's facelifts of which there are many different types of facelifts now, and I have no idea what other procedures are out there. So when you
Lasers
come,
and yeah,
are those the main ones?
yeah.
Okay, so all in the interest of having us achieve that glorious youthful glow and
Right.
look. So how does facial acupuncture compare to those things?
Good question. I mean, they're very different, right? So let's use Botox as an example.
Hmm.
So now Botox uses the strategy of paralyzing a muscle to then help then you can't make the facial expression
Right,
that creates the wrinkle, as
right,
well as by the very act of paralyzing it, it pops the wrinkle out.
right,
And we look smooth in that area.
right.
So there's an interesting article that my colleague has, or Lillian has, that she brought with her to the office last week.
Yeah,
And it talks about how empathy is an important thing in life, right?
hmm,
And so when our bodies are designed to recognize, okay, if I feel an emotion, I make an expression, and that expression, the very act of making the expression, helps our body understand and process that emotion,
right,
as well as the person we're speaking with.
right,
So let's say I tell you my dog died, and you're just looking at me like, wow, that's so sad.
right.
Like, then I don't feel heard. I feel invalidated, and that can actually cause a rift in our relationship, as well as your body wasn't able to really own, like, oh my gosh, you can't make the expression that your body, needed to do.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I never even thought about that. Is that, I was just talking, there's a study that in UCLA that talks about how we communicate and what we're communicating. And a good percentage of it is the body language. The other is actually the words and the tonality in our voice. But and then the other is just, the words coming out of our mouth versus the voice and the tone and everything. And
Right.
so what you're saying is if you cut out that portion because you've gotten Botox and this stuff is paralyzed, that it's stopping the expressions from this part of your face. And depending on where you get it, sometimes people get Botox over here.
Right.
So like it gives a sense of the person that you don't have any empathy for what they're talking about.
Right.
Yeah, interesting.
And of course, everything's a toxicity is a matter of dosage,
Right,
right? So on a smaller scale, this might not be a significant shift in that full dynamic.
right,
However, over time, especially with people who start to get more and more and more, and they get it more and more frequently, that can be a problem.
right.
And
The
as
the
well,
Botox, which is a toxin,
botulism toxin.
botulinous toxin, right? It's
Botulism.
bovine something or other.
It's pretty intense if
Yeah,
you look at it. I mean, they dilute it enough to have it on some FDA level of safety.
right,
However, for me, it's a hard thing to want to inject neurotoxins into my skin.
right. Yeah,
But if that aside, the other thing that's interesting about paralyzing, like again, let's use the analogy of like we want a six pack, right?
right.
So we have a couple options.
Hmm.
If we start doing sit-ups,
Hmm.
and tone those muscles and help, clean up our diet and eliminate the fat or whatever, then we then have tone in the muscle,
Right,
right? And it's something that, yes, it may fade in time, but you now it's an increased amount of tone.
right,
Whereas if we were to paralyze our abdomen to get it smooth,
right,
once that paralysis wears off, we now are further back than we were before we started.
right, right. So
So,
so the muscle is kind of flaccid.
right. Exactly. And
So,
it's not helping over time. So that's the cool thing about facial acupuncture. When we are actually toning the muscle. And at the same time, I loved what you said in the last one about like there's a combination of relaxing and toning.
hmm
So things that are tight, we need to relieve that tension, and things that are weak, we need to support and tone. And we can do that really specifically and uniquely and holistically for each of our patients
mm.
so that we can watch like we don't it's not like one treatment fits all, right?
Okay, so with these muscles, when I actually look at these muscles that make the 11, which is the most traditional thing people use Botox on, there's part of it is which is the relaxing or flaccid or smoothness, but then you're saying there's also a toning aspect to actually, so because I'm going like this, there's probably some other compensating things that have to be supportive so that when I go like this, it's not like this becomes like a two rivers flowing down and grove back and forth. Is that
Right.
right? Okay.
You would thread a needle along that river and help,
Right.
relieve.
Support,
Yeah.
release, and then also support versus
Right.
kind of like, yeah, I see. Versus kind of shutting down the river and like just putting a blockade and saying like stop flowing altogether.
So here's a picture of some of the needle choices that we might use.
Okay.
So here in that,
Tell us a little bit about what I'm looking at here.
yeah, this is one of the protocols that we can use.
Okay.
And basically, the idea is that there are major acupuncture points that can help, again, with that little area, right? So we want to help support and lift so that your eyebrows, because eyebrows can get saggy as well, and then
Yes.
so if we get the scrunched up in the center as well as saggy eyebrows, the overall level of our eyes diminishes,
Right.
right? As well as we get that like I look like I'm frustrated, and even
Right.
though it might just be a concentration, whatever it looks like, psychologically, my brain would say, "Oh no, I look stressed out,"
Right, when
right?
it's like this kind of thing. So you've got, well, I've noticed that like my eyelids feel like this area above my eyelids start like hanging down, like Deputy Dog or whatever that cartoon character
Right.
is, like a Sharpay
Yes.
hanging over. So those kinds of things are because these muscles over here are not toned and lifting that area.
Right.
I
Um,
see.
and I have the other. Oh, okay, cool. And then there's another school of thought. I like images, by the way. You might
Yes, I
know this.
like images too.
So there is another technique where we can do needles. So you can see the green and the red.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is sedating and one of them is tonifying. So we're going to
Oh,
be bringing balance to that area at the very same time.
right.
And we want to. Can you see the temples in this one?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we also want to release from the side, right?
Oh,
Because we want to think holistically, right? Our face this is not separate from the rest of us.
right.
But if you get this really intense, you're likely going to hold tension in the temples.
Ah, okay. So this whole construct is not only this, which is the sides, because
Can you feel that
yeah,
already?
I can feel like when I'm doing this, I'm like pushing this way, and then I actually am kind of like furrowing this way, and then creating this to have this whole thing going on.
Right.
There's three aspects. You're actually treating all three of those, either strengthening or relaxing.
At least that's just one level of it, right?
Right. Yeah,
We're
that's
doing a lot
fascinating.
more too, because as well, with Botox, a lot of people have what
Oh, these big lines here,
in
right?
face reading we call those focus lines. People who have those lines have been said to show that they're very focused.
Right.
So now, if we want to clear that, we again gravity is effective, right? Because
Right.
gravity is getting the cheeks down, which is part
Right.
of that.
Right.
So with these techniques, we can use the jawline as well as to release tension. Here we go. You can see how the muscular lines run.
Mm-hmm.
So see,
Those are the white lines. Those are bones, and then the muscular lines are running from
right.
those what are they called? Marionettes, going from the marionettes all the way to the ears. I see.
Right.
Got it. Okay, got it.
So with that, we want to release the muscles along here and release the muscles up in the temples and along the jawline and by the ears. So there's some pretty key points we call motor points that help, again, tone and support the muscle integrity at the same time as relieving the tension that's in the tissue.
Interesting. So, and again, going back to the very first video, so we actually have two things that are going on. Not only are we actually, and what I thought was so interesting is that you said that there are three things. There's emotion, physical, and there was another thing. Is it spiritual, or what was the third thing that you said that is held with our energy?
Oh, so it worked the chi channels, they
Yes.
work on an anatomical region,
Mm-hmm.
an organ function, and an emotion.
Ah, okay, got it. So, oh wow, okay, so we're basically in, if we were to, when we do facial acupuncture and we hit our hands and our points, points in our hands and our feet, which you're talking about, and our face, it's not
Mhm.
only affecting, anatomically the muscles and
Right.
releasing, but then it's also affecting our emotions. So,
So you're less likely to make the scrunchy face, right? Because if you
right.
relax, not just the facial expression, but like actually help your body process the stress your body was
Mm,
basically holding. So that's the other thing that I would say that differentiates us from pretty much every other um, anti-aging facial rejuvenation kind of thing is that we are giving you a full body acupuncture treatment at the same time. So you're getting hormone balance, support for your sleep, and digestive support, and whatever else is coming up
mm-hmm.
in addition to. So we don't actually want you just to look beautiful. We want you to feel healthier and vital. And so it's not just anti-aging surface level. It's like, no, we're going deep as we can. And of
Yeah.
the patient is a partner in this process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go home and eat McDonald's and have a ton of
Right.
beer, and, that's going to limit our results.
Right.
So we really encourage the holistic approach throughout, and people who have invested in this tend to be really motivated to go onto those
Mm.
levels.
What is huge for me that I just didn't, I'm actually thinking the originating process, right? When I'm going like this, it's
Mm-hmm.
because I'm probably, because I have a lot of wood according to the Chinese modality, which
Uh-huh.
is very focused, very driven,
Mm-hmm.
and that has a whole mindset. It has a whole emotionality associated with it, and it's probably affecting my organs in a particular way. And so this motion is probably like a signal for a whole bunch of other things that are happening below. Like I have issues with anger, which this, when you look at people and you're saying there's kind of a subtle emotional cue that you get, this is kind of like, sometimes are people really, are you really angry at me? Like, no, I'm just focusing, right? But,
Right.
but there's kind of
So
an,
release anger, right? Right.
yeah, there's an emotion part, but I hadn't thought about the beginning parts of what, I'm actually making this face, right? And then that's actually has a ripple effect all the way down to my
Right.
organs, my muscles, and
Right.
then my emotion. And so if those patterns are recurring, you could go and do a Botox or a filler or whatever, but you're
Right.
not really getting to the root issue, which is to get to live a holistic
Right.
life, right? Where you can deal with focusing but then being relaxed at the same
Right.
time, right? Where so do people, when they get these treatments, are they finding that their life changes? I mean, since, because you were talking about in the last section that there's this one gal who is going through a whole makeover, but she's doing it to transform her whole life, not just the physical aspects but the emotional and anatomical, right?
Right. Well, just one last thing about that wood constitution. With every constitution, there are pluses and minuses.
Right.
They all have these spiritual attributes that are beautiful and powerful and
Right.
amazing.
Right.
And then they all have a dark side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole tenet of Chinese medicine is to find the middle way,
Right.
to bring things into balance. So
uh
and that's again one of the things that's always what we're trying to do. And when things are flowing in our body, then we naturally are more likely to find that balance, but it does
uh
require us to get rid of those patterns that held us out of balance.
I see. Okay, got it. So going back to that, because if I follow your logic correctly, is that, we have an essence. I have a wood essence, for better or worse. And like you
Right.
said, there's actually positive aspects of
Totally.
being wood. I'm like focused. I'm driven. I'm very
Creative.
strident. Whatever. What did you say?
Right. Creative.
Creative. So I have all those kinds of things going for me. But then the shadow side of that same essence that I have, shows up like this, right? When it's almost like an over wood, like
A
where I'm
stagnant wood.
yeah, stagnant wood. So that kind of, it gives that kind of a a release as well,
Right.
so that I can be more balanced. So
Right.
there's, so I also see it then affecting you at a spiritual level then.
Absolutely. And interestingly, this area equates to your third eye, right? In the Ayurvedic
Ah,
and yoga traditions.
yes.
So with the chakra system,
Yeah.
one of our patients, it was so cool. On her very first treatment, we did quite a lot in this area because she is also quite wood and just has a lot on her plate and just is a goer, a go and doer, you know. And so when we did that, when I came back in, she told me that she had like this creative spiritual awakening in that treatment. Just, I mean, you can never plan these
Right.
things. I set that up. It was just where she was in life and just taking a break from her life and just really
Yeah.
bringing energy. And she decided to do that. She saw her mission in life in a way she
Mm.
hadn't really before, and she was just like, okay, I'm
Oh, I
gonna.
just got chills. That's huge. So it's
It was great.
very transformative, not
Yeah.
on the face, but not only on the face, but something else. It's interesting. It also reminds me of like, when people take aspirin, they're just like they're treating the symptoms, right? This is almost like the symptom of a
Right.
whole construct that goes behind that. So that
And
is
there's a time and
fantastic.
place for aspirin, right? Like we're not
Yeah.
pure. And that's part of the middle way is
Yeah.
like doing what works in each condition and not being, we don't need to be against Botox. We just need to differentiate what we are versus what they are, you
Right, and
know?
what the techniques do. Okay, so this is fantastic. We're going to go back in part three and talk about some of the other techniques, like there's fillers, all these other things, and we'll just touch base on those as well. Thank
Great.
you so
Thank
much.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.